Hi there, my name is Ryan O'Neill, and this is the Sleeping at Last podcast, where I have the absolute privilege of sharing with you the stories of how my songs came to be and all that went into them. Thank you so much for being curious and for pressing play. Today, I am so excited to share another Atlas 3 song with you. This one is called Heal, and it is the sibling song or partner song, so to speak, to Hurt, which is a song that we explored in the last episode of the podcast. In the same way that Awake and Asleep earlier on in Atlas 3 were these partner songs, Hurt and Heal are our two sides of the same coin as well. Heal is a simple guitar song. It is a folk song, and it means a whole lot to me. I would love to share it with you first, and then I'll explain what it means and how it was recorded, how it was born, and probably way overshare about my personal struggles with healing and all that entails. So let's go ahead and listen. Here's Heal. You remind me that my body was born to heal before it dies. I never knew it'd be so easy to forget that I'm alive. Life is beautiful because it's always running out of time. You remind me that my heart was born to beat before it died. I'll make a mess, I'll make amends, give or take 28,000 days to try to be remade. If I suspend my disbelief, let this magic trick in me be real and let my body heal. Amen. As I grow older, I hold tighter to a world hell-bent on change. I'd be lying if I told you that I wasn't afraid. In the currency of memory, nothing costs more than pain. But you remind me 14,000 days or so, I'm still okay. You remind me that my body was born to heal. You remind me that my body was born to heal over time. You remind me that my body was born to heal before it dies. You remind me. I'll make a mess, I'll make amends, give or take 28,000 days to try to be remade. If I suspend my disbelief, let this magic trick in me be real and let my body heal. Amen. I'll make a mess, I'll make amends, give or take 28,000 days to try again and again. I suspend my disbelief, let this magic trick in me be real and let my body heal. Amen. I'm having a little trouble trying to find the right words to explain what this song means to me and what it's about. And that's because it's about something very specific that I have struggled with in the last couple of years. And I've made brief mention of it, especially in talking through the loss of my mom in 2022 and in all the episodes about those mother songs that were very much my processing of that loss and the grief and every part of how difficult that has been. And it was incredibly helpful for me to be able to process out loud. So I've made mention of this, but I struggle with health anxiety. And it was a direct, it started immediately after my mom passed away. And if you're unfamiliar with what health anxiety is, it is formerly called hypochondria. It is the kind of relentless fear that something in your body is wrong. Every sensation or unusual feeling that I have in any part of my body, my brain instantly writes a story of terror, an awful story. And no matter how many times over this last couple of years where I have worried immensely about something being wrong, none of those things have actually turned out to be an issue, which is how I know it's health anxiety. But the trick with health anxiety is that at some point, your finite body is going to be sick. So some sensation that I do feel will eventually be something, and that could be a small something, it could be a big something. And so when I pull back the lens and I look at when it started, which is immediately after my mom passed away in 2022, and as I've talked about before, my mom died of cancer, and it was a very unexpected and extraordinarily painful and horrible few weeks in the hospital that she had, and to bear witness to that was devastating. And I've never witnessed anybody go through as much pain as my mom did, and my mom and I were deeply close. And I think that there's something in my body that can't make sense of what I saw, and so this anxiety it feels stuck in my body. So even though I can completely use logic to understand that most things that I feel are not necessarily a problem, I have found that it has taken up an extremely big amount of my emotional bandwidth, my headspace, even when I'm not talking about it or thinking about it, which I have certainly worn out so many of my friends and family and my therapist on this topic. I've noticed that even these little quiet thoughts that, like, if I sit a certain way and then there's a feeling in my back or there's something going on, I'm instantly drawing a really dark and scary conclusion. And it's interesting because hypochondria or health anxiety is not that unreasonable. Do you know what I mean? Like it is a problem, but it's not using a wild imagination. At some point, I am going to have something that means something, I'm going to feel something that means something. But part of the mess of health anxiety for me has been constantly Googling symptoms of things. And of course, Google always tells you every end of the spectrum. It could be a headache. It could be a tumor. And I know that. And I've even tried not to when I'm worried about something. And I think the unusual brand of health anxiety that I have, when I have compared it to other people that experience health anxiety, is that I'm also, in addition to being terrified that something is wrong in my body, I am completely terrified of the doctor and the doctor's office and dentists and all things medical. And so that means it's really difficult to try to find any answers that are actually helpful because I'm terrified of even the process of getting the answers. From my understanding, a lot of people with health anxiety actually go to the doctor often and try to get every test possible. So they have a place to kind of put that anxiety, even though that soothing is kind of temporary, because as soon as they get clearance on one potential concern, another one pops up in its place. And so, but I feel a little bit envious because I feel so scared of even going to get answers that it feels like anxiety stacking. Like I start with this terrifying thought and then it makes me super nervous. And then the idea of getting any sort of answers or test results sounds almost just as terrifying. But I have forced myself to over these last couple of years as part of me becoming an adult at 41, I have tried to make a lot of changes since my mom passed away. I've tried to be responsible. And so I found a doctor, found a dentist, have had many, many checkups and things like that. And it's been a real hard path for me in a way that I obviously never expected. Nobody can predict how grief is going to weave into your life and what it will do. And I guess the one constant in grief is that everybody experiences it in complete different ways, and it is nonlinear. So that's a shared experience. It is never linear at all. And for me, one of the many faces that grief has shown up as is health anxiety. And I know this for these last 2 years, I've been trying to find a way out to not worry so much. And actually, a few things have been really fascinating. One is that my family and I moved to London about a year ago. And initially, for the first 3 or 4 months of our time there, my health anxiety completely disappeared. Like it went from like an 8 out of 10 of anxiety to a 0, maybe a 1 on occasion, but it was almost gone. And I came back home for Thanksgiving and it all returned. And I think there was a lot of emotional cues around my hometown and just in my everyday life in Illinois that I processed some of these harder feelings and processed the loss of my mom and have written songs about it. I think the time away in London in an entirely new environment with no emotional cues anywhere, no memories attached to any of the locations that we were spending time. It was like a clean slate, and it felt like I could believe in hope again, and that felt very, very healing and reassuring. But then when I came back to visit back home in around Thanksgiving, as I said, it all flooded back, and then it's been kind of a great mix after that, where there's something I'm worried about. Almost, and what's interesting about my health anxiety too is that it's always one focal point. So there's one part of my body that is stressing me out, and then the story that I'm telling myself is like, and I can't help but tell myself that the worry around whatever it is. It's so much so that I noticed, because it's always one thing, I started keeping track of it. So shortly after my mom passed away, I started like writing it down, like, okay, this is something I was worried about. The purpose of that was to look back and see were any of these things like an actual problem? Because I did get every single one of them checked out and none of them were an issue. But then that list just kept growing and growing and growing. And what I said before is true. At some point, one of these sensations or these feelings or something going on in my body is going to be something wrong. And so it doesn't feel that unreasonable to worry about it. And actually, another aspect that I have been kind of exploring in my mind, or that I noticed in me in these last couple of years, is that as part of kind of getting on top of my fears and trying to conquer my anxieties about the medical universe, and which is probably all like an offshoot of just being afraid of death, I have noticed that all of that requires a certain level of, let's call it courage. So I have to make the appointment to find my doctor, and then I had to go, and then I had to go get a blood test, and then I had to go get the next thing checked out. Each one of those little baby steps to just being a normal person felt huge. It felt like a massive mountain for me to climb personally. And the answer was always tension. And so with health anxiety, I noticed that me constantly pushing into that tension to be brave and to be courageous with my fears, I think I was doing that with my health anxiety. It felt like the responsible thing to do is to worry about what that thing could be, because if I didn't worry about it, that'd be passive or avoidant. And I wanted to make sure that I am getting on top of my life. I think watching my mom go through all that she went through made me want to make sure that I'm doing everything I can to be around for my kids' future, and to not have my kids go through losing me earlier than they have to. And so I've been examining all this stuff, and I think I realized a few things in writing this song, which became, pun intended, it became a very healing process for me. One of the things that I was thinking through when I wrote this was, we have this gift, this spell, and most people have it in their life, and it's a really good and necessary and beautiful spell. And the spell gives us the ability to know that we will die someday and understand that. But then also somehow we don't find it all that difficult to go about our day and relegate that thought of death to some dark corner in the back of our mind. And then we can go on and be annoyed at the to-do list that we have, or thinking about what food we want to eat for dinner, or what our day looks like tomorrow, or whatever's happening on the latest episode of whatever. To me, none of that is avoidance or rejecting the idea of death. It actually feels like this really beautiful, meaningful spell. But grief, loss, abuse, trauma, health anxiety, all of those things break that spell for a time. Suddenly we see and feel absolute heartbreak of the simple truth that death is a certainty. And the more I thought about this and wish that I could return to whatever that spell is in my life before my mom passed away, the more I realized that spell might be something similar to healing. When we get physically hurt, let's say something breaks our skin and we have a cut, our bodies rally every resource that we have to heal that wound. And once it heals, there's usually a scar. And the scar is the memory of that wound. So we don't forget the hurt. We just grow beyond it. And it's hard to talk about this actually. That's the spell that I'm talking about in this song. That's the magic. That's what I'm trying to find, not only physically, but emotionally in the wake of losing my mom these last couple of years. And I think for me, the grief of losing my mom is, of course, going to be with me forever. That is my scar. And I understand that. But I also have felt a little bit of a shift over these last few months, especially. And it feels a lot like healing. So that's where I wrote this song. That's what this song means to me. And I hesitated to share that with you guys because I do feel like even at the start of making these episodes of the podcast many years ago, that was a big question was if I share what I meant in every lyric and in every song, it could potentially replace your interpretation of the lyrics of any song. And so I essentially decided that all of my music is a deep sharing. It is a personal, intimate revealing of who I am, and I put every part of my life into these songs. And so it felt like recording these episodes is actually an extension of my sharing. And so that's sort of where I landed on that very relevant question that I think a lot of songwriters or artists choose to kind of figure out how they want to respond to it. Do they want to say anything about their work, or do they want to let it completely speak for itself? And I felt like there's something really helpful and cathartic to get to talk through, in addition to writing songs, which is also complete therapy for me. It is really helpful to get to share who I am in these songs. And so for this song, I really hesitated because health anxiety is not something that everyone shares. And so it is very specific. And so I wanted this song to be, to have so much more meaning than just my own experience with attempting to put one foot in front of the other toward healing my health anxiety. And so I hope that you can make space for your own interpretation of the song and all the songs that I'm talking about. If you're kind enough to listen to this podcast and to be curious about why I wrote what I wrote, I guess the hope is that it actually adds to the interpretation and doesn't take away from it. And so with this one, I was really nervous to get to share any of this. But I appreciate getting to, because it really does feel like it does some good in my heart. So the first lyric of the song is, "You remind me that my body was born to heal before it dies." I wrote that simple lyric, and for about a month or two before carrying on to any other writing of the song, I just wanted to hear those words repeated. It was a little bit of my mantra. It was almost, I think it was part of my convincing myself that healing is possible. It's such a simple idea, but it meant a lot when I finally convinced myself that yes, my life is going to end at some point. That is a guarantee. But another guarantee that we receive is this gift of healing. Not only our body, but our relationships, our ability to repair and to mend, is sacred. It is a form of magic. It is so beautiful. I mentioned earlier I kept a list of all of the different things that I was worried about in my body over the last couple of years, and looking back at that list and kind of realizing, actually, yeah, so some of these things could eventually become true. I could be sick in the ways that I'm worrying about. But also this list right here, none of the stories that I was telling myself, that I was worrying myself about, came true. And I also felt that same feeling when my family and I recently ended that year of London, that first chapter of our time there. I was able to look back and realize that there was no medical emergency. There was no massive loss. And there was something soothing about realizing that that's possible, because I think that that's what the heart of health anxiety is that you no longer believe that it is possible to just be okay for any amount of time. It feels like at any moment, life could throw a very, very serious curveball. And it can. That's the thing. It totally can. But also, we're able to heal. And that's something that I needed to be reminded of. The old idea that two things can be true at the same time, that is what that lyric tries to accomplish. My body was born to heal before it dies. The chorus lyrics are, I'll make a mess, I'll make amends, give or take 28,000 days to try to be remade.
I'll make a mess, I'll make amends, give or take 28,000 days to try to be remade.
The reference to 28,000 days might be obvious, but 80 years of a life is 28,000 days. And so I've always had that in my head as a kid, that I hope I can live to that. And so the lyric give or take refers to the unknown. And there's a little bit of rebellion in that in me, because my mom died at 65, and the idea of getting to live until I'm 80 is a little bit of an act of defiance. It is me saying that out loud feels like a real step towards hope and pushing against all of the stories that health anxiety has been telling me. And in the second verse, which we're about to hear, I am pulling myself back to my present in this middle age place that I currently am. I'm 41 years old. The choruses talk about the future. It talks about hope, and it talks about 28,000 days, 80 years of life. And this is bringing me right back into where I am right now. And the song completely ignores the past. So the past is represented by the song that came before this, which is called Hurt. And it talks a lot about the past and wanting to rearrange the past. And so I felt like for this song about healing, it needs to be a hopeful song. So it needs to remain focused on the present and the future. And so this particular verse is all about my present, and it references 14,000 days because that is roughly where I am at in my life. And it leads into the same lyrics that we talked about earlier. You remind me that my body was born to heal. But now those lyrics are sung in the context of my present. Before they were kind of sung as a general concept, and now I'm applying those words to now, exactly where I'm at.
But you remind me 14,000 days or so, I'm still okay. You remind me that my body was born to heal. You remind me that my body was born to heal over time. You remind me that my body was born to heal before it dies. You remind
The you that I continually reference in this song is essentially my wife, Kate, who has been a lifeline in these last couple of years as I navigate not only health anxiety, but just grief as a whole. And a lot of the conversations that I've had with her are how I have found so much of this healing over these last couple of years. And so this song is almost like picking up on one of the conversations that we've had, and helping me remember it. So earlier this year, I played a handful of shows in the UK, and it felt amazing to return to playing live shows again after a very long time away from any sort of performance. Definitely part of my journey of healing and trying to grow through things that make me uncomfortable. But I played this song, Heal, at each of those shows. And I loved getting to share this in that live setting. And it's what convinced me to leave this song as an acoustic and vocal only in the production. Initially, when I wrote it, I had imagined several string lines and several other layers. And the more I played it and the more I thought about it, the more I realized that I want to present this kind of like a traditional folk song where the lyric is the focal point. It's a simple song. And I wanted it to be as live and vulnerable, and that is why it's a wobbly performance. It's actually a little bit uncomfortable for me to listen to because I wanna fix it. I want to make it a little bit better. And I actually feel like part of my journey into healing has been to let things be. It's acceptance. And so the production is just a guitar and a vocal. No Easter eggs, no additional layers. I recorded it live at Abbey Road Studios in London, which was a joy. And I picked a take, and that's what you hear. And I felt like that was the best representation of my experience of healing so far. So even though I am sitting here in my studio entirely by myself, the idea that someone would press play on this and listen to me process out loud and talk about these things that are hard for me to even put into words, and to choke up, it means so much to me. Truly, it is a huge part of my healing, as I've said. And I'm just really, really grateful to get an opportunity to talk through this stuff. Thank you for listening. I am super excited to tell you more about how Heal fits into this theme of Atlas 3, and to share new music. There's several other songs coming out in the next few weeks here, and I'm elated to share them with you. The next song in Atlas 3 is called Quiet Magic, and it is a song based on the Greek definition of love, storge, which is familial love. And I am so excited. There's several overlapping lyrics here. That song is all about the magic of this unconditional love that we get to experience as people, which feels so closely related to what I'm learning here in this idea of healing. Cannot wait to share that with you so soon, but I am deeply, deeply grateful for you. Thank you for listening. Before I entirely wrap up, I wanted to share just a couple things with you. First of all, we are 1 month out from my orchestral shows. 2 of them are sold out in Chicago at the Harris Theater with the Chicago Philharmonic. And then we're bringing that same show to New York City at Carnegie Hall, which is so amazing, and I genuinely just cannot wait to get to share these new orchestral versions of so many of my songs. Cannot wait. I think tickets are still available for Carnegie Hall. There is a link on my website and in the show notes if you're interested in. That is October 24th, Carnegie Hall in New York City. Also, in the past few weeks, I was so honored to get to sing on my friend Cody Fry's cover of The Sound of Silence, which is available now everywhere music is. He did the most incredible cover of any song I've ever heard. It is like a full orchestral version of The Sound of Silence, and he invited me to sing it with him, and it was such a joy. I recorded that at Abbey Road as well, and it was just another huge part of the fun that I got to have in London. The Sound of Silence, Cody Fry, Sleeping at Last, is out everywhere music is. Here is a little clip.
Take my arms that I might reach you, but my words like silent raindrops fell and echoed in the wells. They echoed in the wells. They echoed in the wells. They echoed in the wells. Oh, they echoed in the wells, and the people bowed and prayed to the neon god they made.
So good. Cody Fry did an incredible job. So please go take a listen to that. And again, thank you so much. Thank you so much for listening. I am so grateful for you. I am looking forward to recording another episode of this podcast with the next song in Atlas 3, which will be out very, very soon, and cannot wait to speak with you soon. I'll end this episode by playing Heal one more time for you, now that you know a little bit of the backstory. And it means a lot to get to share it with you. Thank you so much. Have a really beautiful day wherever you are. I'll speak to you soon.
You remind me that my body was born to heal before it dies. I never knew it'd be so easy to forget that I'm alive. Life is beautiful because it's always running out of time. You remind me that my heart was born to beat before it died. I'll make a mess, I'll make amends, give or take 28,000 days to try to be remade. If I suspend my disbelief, let this magic trick in me be real and let my body heal. Amen. As I grow older, I hold tighter to a world hell-bent on change. I'd be lying if I told you that I wasn't afraid. In the currency of memory, nothing costs more than pain. But you remind me 14,000 days or so I'm still okay. You remind me that my body was born to heal. You remind me that my body was born to heal over time. You remind me that my body was born to heal before it dies. You remind me. I'll make a mess, I'll make amends, give or take 28,000 days to try to be remade. If I suspend my disbelief, let this magic trick in me be real and let my body heal. Amen. I'll make a mess, I'll make amends, give or take 28,000 days to try again and again. I suspend my disbelief, let this magic trick in me be real and let my body heal. Amen.